Hey, there they are. Look. Everybody's in the camera. They're looking at you. Where's everybody? Huh? Where is he? What's up, guys? Happy Saturday evening. Or as Johnny Bean would say, Stratterday evening. Okay, Barney says hi. Good to see everybody. Gonna have a fun show tonight. We'll just give some intros here in a second and just chat for a second, then we'll dive right into it. First, I want to say I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. I know folks do other shows, and please feel free to go to that show and just check this on a replay. My time is kind of all over the place, so I have to take advantage of when I have time to do a show, and I finally had some time tonight. So thank you for jumping in. It's what time is it? 8 o'clock on Eastern time on a Saturday night, and we're gonna have some fun tonight. There's a long overdue show that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I thought this morning when I got back from the gym and had my 19th cup of coffee, I was like, you know what, we're gonna do this tonight. The timing was right because I have an item that I know most of you know about what it is, but we're going to show it tonight. And we're also going to do an updated deep dive, I guess you could say, kind of into the 5150 guitar, the Kramer 5150 guitar that Eddie had made for him and then built himself, I guess you could say, back in 1982. So we're going to jump into that. And hopefully I'm going to show you the new and best version that I've certainly ever had, and I would say hands down is probably one of the best that's ever been made. And I've seen a lot of them, played a lot of them, and this one is just right up there, probably the best of the best in my book anyways. But I do thank you all for jumping in, for watching tonight. We're going to have some fun. I got the tattoo updated a little bit. I used to stop right about here and had some drips, and then I had it updated. I think we talked about that the last time, but it's finally healing up a little bit, so that's kind of cool. And I want to give a shout out to EVH, the brand under Fender, amazing products. I know Matt Bruck and Wolfgang are sporting that company right now and holding down the fort and putting out some really cool stuff. And I will always be a supporter of that. And I just want to say a shout out to EVH. Also want to say a shout out to Ernie Ball Music Man, PV Wolfgangs, and, you know, just all the 5150 amps that they put out. Amazing stuff. And again, back to EVH, I'm just glad to see what they're continuing to do. There's just amazing stuff out there. So let's jump in and see who we got, and then we're going to jump right into it. I know Kurt said he's not going to be able to make it tonight, but he'll catch the replay. How you doing, buddy? Edvis, what's going on? How you doing? Jerry, yes, football is on, and I'm excited. And feel free to catch the replay, buddy. I think it's going to be a good show. We're going to have a lot of fun. I got some stuff to update folks on and chat about a little bit. But definitely have fun with a pigskin. Johnny, what's going on, buddy? How you doing, my friend? Johnny, I'm gonna be in touch with you. I want to do a show. I want to have you on my channel. I don't think I've ever done that. And if I have, it's only been maybe once or so. But I want to jump on your show and say hi to everybody. It's been long overdue. How you doing? Good to see you. Ryan, OU812. How you doing, buddy? I hope you're having fun on your little getaway. My good friend Ryan we were chatting a little bit yesterday, and he's out having a little getaway for the weekend. And thank you for jumping in, dude. I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy it. Sit back and have a drink. Have a drink, and cheers to you, my friend. And you, we've talked about this, have got to make it up to Dojo 5150 one of these days. Crimson, how you doing? Crimson says, I'm building a Frankie. Anyone know what red to use? The Super Red 2 people recommend doesn't look right. Gosh, I've heard Super Red 2. I don't remember what mine is. I mean, Flame red might be a good thing to look into. Like I said, I cannot remember. I am going to do another Frankie show soon, and we're going to go over all that stuff. It's been a while since I've done a Frankenstrat show, but and there's definitely some stuff I've learned over the years, mostly from all of you folks. And then we'll talk about that, but I'll do some research. Hugh Robin, how are you? Good to see you, man. Thanks for jumping in. Nick, how you doing, buddy? I'm glad you're watching, Nick. I love watching your videos, man, with your EVH Wolfgang, man. Keep it up. Nick's not only playing Van Halen stuff, he's also diving into some other cool licks, and I really love what you're doing, dude. And you're inspiring to me, because I had a chance to play some guitar this morning for a while on the new toy, which I'll show, and Nick's a big part of that because you inspire me. I don't get a lot of time to play just with everything going on. Elijah, how you doing, man? Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for checking out the collection. Clayton James Hicks, what's going on, buddy? It is Straturday. Mark Shepard, what's up, brother? How are you? Thanks for jumping in. Jerry says, back to the Frankie real quick. He says, pick out all the reds you like and do a test board over the black and white. Pick the one you like. Yeah, totally. You know, all our eyes are different. They see different shades. I mean, I'll look at different guitars and I'll see something in this picture, and then another picture I'll see a different shade. The Frankenstrat, I can honestly say I saw in person at the Met back in 2019. And Jordan Perkins, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. Thanks for jumping in. And I can honestly say I was amazed at how shiny it looked, but also how I don't want to say pink, but how light red it was. It was almost more like to me, it looked like a banner type red, but it was definitely a very light kind of red to me. Almost this color, maybe, I guess you could say. And I don't know how it looks in this thing. This is a keychain of a 5150 neck that was given to me by a buddy of mine. Clayton James says, do you still have a black and white Music Man guitar? No, actually, I never did. I never had a black and white. I mean, like the yin and yang. I never had that. But so that's who we got in here now. Jerry says, I'm going to use Schwinn Opaque Red on mine. Yeah, Jerry's in the process of doing a Frankie right now, so stay tuned. And I also know my good friend Matt Anthony's also in the process of doing one. So those are definitely some things you guys can pick up. So let's jump in. Let's jump right in and start chatting about this guitar. And like I said, I want to kind of do an updated show. There's going to be a lot of review. If you go to my YouTube channel and you go back, I think it's 4 or 5 years, there's a picture of me holding the 5150 up going like that or something like that. It's kind of a weird, I don't know why I picked that thumbnail, but whatever. That's me. And that's a great video, and we had a lot of good information on that. But I do want to say that there's been some things that we've learned since then. I mean, geez, gosh, I'll tell you, every other week, in free time or whatever, I'm looking around and, going through the websites and stuff and doing my research, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that. Or here's another picture I didn't see, or here's that angle here or whatever. And we're always learning. And I was lucky enough to be able to interview George Felice, as you guys have seen, back about a month ago. He was on the channel. We had a great night. And George offered a lot of good information, and we'll try to talk a little bit about it. And, when you talk to the folks that actually built these guitars and painted these guitars and saw them, you really have to have a soft spot in your heart, because these are the people that actually made these things for Ed, and that we research all the time and we love, and that's our pastime, and our hobbies and our professions. If you play, a professional musician or whatever. So it's really pretty special to be able to do that. But even with the stuff that they tell us and the stuff that they educate us on, our job still continues as historians, I guess you could say. I remember my our late friend Dave Nesdahl, my good friend, Johnny and my good friend, and all of our good friends. rest in peace, buddy, did a show with me and I think Ty Price, our other good friend Ty, years ago, and interviewed me and called me a Van Halen historian. We talked about a bunch of guitars, and that was a great show. And the only way that I know these things and continue to learn these things is because of all of you. And I'm never, I get proved wrong on things or all the time, and that's what makes it all fun. So let's jump in. I think there was one question here I wanted to look at real quick that somebody popped in. Thomas Dennett says, love your collection and channel. Got my Kramer 84 in my lap now. Seeing David Lee Roth this Thursday in Arizona with my buddy from grade school that saw the 1984 in 5150 tour in high school. Thomas, that's great. Thank you for that input. That's awesome. First off, enjoy that 84 in your lap. My wife and I went to see David Lee Roth in Hampton Beach a couple of weeks ago. It was great. And that's when he told he kind of, I don't know if it was a picking on Sammy Hagar or kind of giving him a kudos. It's kind of hard to tell. You never know with Roth, given the story on Ed coming to him in a dream. It's kind of neat. It's all over YouTube, but I was actually there to see that. It's kind of neat. Enjoy the show. Definitely enjoy the show. Oh, he actually said played near me at Hampton Beach at the casino. But yeah, I was there. That's where I was. So you guys enjoy the show, and it's fun to go with a friend that's been around for years, high school friend, or grade school, whatever. So you enjoy. So I'm going to try to jump over to the questions when I can. I apologize if I don't get to all of them, because I do want to. Like I said, I want to take the majority of this show and go over this guitar and show you guys everything that I know. And there's no way that we're going to be able to discuss everything, but we're going to do the best we can. So the 5150 Kramer. Oh boy, so much information. Let's take a look at the first time, or the first known picture of this guitar that we can possibly imagine. And I know years ago, and I know a lot of you have seen this, so a lot of it's not going to be new information to all of you, but maybe it will be to some of you. But we are going to review it, and we'll talk about it and maybe stimulate some conversations and things like that. But this picture right here, I'm sure everybody knows where this was. This was the US Festival in May, I believe it was, of 1983. And Steve Wozniak put this whole program together. Van Halen made like $1 million. It was in the Guinness Book of World Records. And Eddie played the Frankenstrat with the jump neck on it. And Jerry, our good friend in the chat right now, has actually held that neck, the jump neck from the Frankenstrat, because a good buddy of Jerry's actually owns it to this day. Cody Berra, a friend of ours, a friend of mine, and some of you might know Cody, used to own that neck. Now it's in hands of another gentleman who I'm actually hoping to meet one of these days. And Jerry's had a good chance to look at that neck up close. So that's pretty cool. So that's the guitar that Eddie played at the US Festival, the Frankenstrat. Diver Down tours over. We're in 1983. The South American leg of the Diver Down, the end of the tour was over, where Ed played the Kramer Ad Frankie, which is going up for auction right now. As we know, that guitar has come out of hiding after all these years, and I always knew that it was out there somewhere. A lot of folks said that after it went to Rudy and Rudy gave it away to Mick Mars, that the X destroyed it and the nasty breakup, and that was all garbage. I never really believed that. And sure enough, I was told about 6 years ago that that was not the case, and to stand by, and one of these days it's going to resurface. And it did. And really cool. I wish I had $4 million, because I'd buy it right now. I'm going to be doing a show on that guitar really soon. I have a really cool replica. But Eddie played that, the South American leg of that tour, the last piece of the Diver Down tour. And just prior to that, at a couple of other American shows, one of them was Philadelphia, because our good friend Scott Smith was at that show and saw Ed play the Kramer at Frankie. And there might have been one or two other U.S. states, and then Ed actually brought that guitar to South America. And from what I understand was because he did not want to take the chance of his Frankenstrat getting stolen. And this was the first Kramer that they made for Ed. So with that guitar, the Kramer Ad Frank, and I don't have mine right handy. It's in the other room. I'm not going to go get it because I got a bunch of other stuff to show. And we'll go over this in more detail. The Kramer Ad Frankie had the first, other than the Ibanez Destroyer, hockey stick headstock that we ever saw on a Strat style body. And Ed really loved that. He didn't like the V-Star kind of looking body that Kramer had done, so that they went upstairs and got the Walker Strat body with the big fat horns and all that stuff, and took the neck that was already painted with a clear coat on it. Again, we're going to go over all this down the road. Put it on that body, and that was the Kramer Ad Frankie. And there's pictures online of Ed playing it all put together without the body being striped up, but the headstock was. And then they striped the body, and that's why the body wasn't clear coated, but the headstock was. #1 Edward Van Halen model, and Ed loved that style neck. And it was based off of his Ibanez Destroyer. So he plays the US Festival, and years ago, we didn't know this. We know the Kramer 5150 had been made around that time. It was made actually in '82, but we didn't know that Ed had it with him. And here it is, backstage at the US Festival in the warm-up room. There's Roth being Roth, and Ed playing the Frankie, and look what we have in the back. That is the Kramer 5150. And it already looks like the neck has been played a little bit. And of course, that's, camera angles and lighting and all that. Some folks actually thought that the headstock wasn't painted there, but it is. You can see the black stripe. It's just the light shining down. No space tape, which would mean no stars. And there it is. That's the first glimpse we get of the Kramer 5150. Okay. Jerry says, always learning. You're darn right, man. I forgot the effing words. Yeah. Johnny says, I saw that guitar 3 days in a row. It was unbelievable. Yeah, Johnny, I've been watching your videos, dude. Gosh, it's like I wish I could see that guitar firsthand. If I could find time to fly out before it gets sold, I might fly out and you and I can go see it together because that's one of my favorites. But there's the 5150. We also see the Kramer Yellow Double Neck. By the way, stand by on another show for the Kramer Yellow Double Neck. I have mine at the shop right now. It's been there for the last couple of weeks. It's having a real true Rockinger put on it on the 6-string bottom side of the guitar. I had a different one on there years ago because I couldn't find a Rockinger for that. I'm finally getting that done, so it's going to be pretty much exact. But there's the Kramer 5150. And this picture didn't really come out for years. I think I saw it first, I don't know, maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago. But prior to that, we'd never seen this picture. At least I hadn't anyways. Holly Lewis, how you doing? Yeah, you can go back. You'll catch up. We haven't really dug into it too much yet. So there's where we first see it. So it was at the US Festival. Really cool. Now, we know that this guitar was built by Paul Unkert, who, as far as we know, cut the neck. Actually had, I don't know if I think it was ESP and Sports and all that. They were the companies that were making the bodies and the necks. But Paul Unkert, as we know, made the neck very much like the Kramer Ad Frankie, which was like a Strat style headstock, which I guess you could say started out like this, right? This is my Kramer Pacer, 1981. And pretty rare. It's the lawsuit headstock, right? Started out like this. And then they molded it into the hockey stick neck by cutting pieces off of it, and then adding pieces of wood from, I think, Paul's bed frame, I think it was. And I can't remember the kind of wood it was. It was birch or whatever it was. I'm not quite sure. I didn't quite dig back into my research as much as that. But the body shape, it was a Kramer Pacer Special. Now, other than the input jack, this body is about as close to what you could call for the Kramer 5150. This is basically exactly what the Kramer 5150 body was. It was a Kramer special body. And of course, this one's got a Rockinger on it, as you can tell. And these were the bodies they were putting out. And this is what was used for the 5150. And this neck was also, it was just molded, cut, and added to, and doweled. And Donnie Ward does that on his necks from Lock Guitars. And that's how they make them. They make them exactly like Eddie's was back then. Musicraft does the same thing. A lot of good companies out there that are doing that. So that's what they did. Paul did not paint the 5150. Okay, a lot of folks think that he did. Now, I have no proof of this, but I will tell you that Paul left Kramer in January of 1983, and that's what he told me. And this guitar, the 5150, was built at the tail end of 1982. It could have been early January 83. We're not quite sure. But that's when Paul left. So the body had been cut. The neck had been cut and built by Paul. And I also believe that the mirror image is killing me. The 1984 Kramer, which is right here, I put this in the back, was built about the same exact time. This is the 1986-88 era version of it. Same body style. The Hot for Teacher right here, I have that in the background too, we believe was built around the same time. Eddie says he built 3 of them. So there was so many of them that got built, but I would imagine it was the 5150, the Hot for Teacher, and the 84. The interesting thing is the Hot for Teacher is a different striping pattern, which is, there's a lot of speculation that, so Paul Unkert told me personally that this was the last guitar he painted. And there's pictures of that. So we believe that those 3 guitars, the 5150, the 84, and the Hot for Teacher, were built around the same time. And what Ed said back in multiple interviews, he built 3 of them. He was talking about those. Now, the Kramer Ad Frankie, yeah, that was, there's pictures of him building it prior to these and all that. We get that. But I think Ed was talking about these rear-loaded, non-pickguard guitars, not the Frankenstrat styles. He went back to like a Bumblebee type body, no pickguard. It's funny how he had the Frankenstrat and the Destroyer. Then he goes to the Bumblebee, 1 pickup, rear-loaded, no pickguard, and then kind of goes back to the Frankie style guitars, and then goes back to the Bumblebee style, you know, different routes and everything, but basically a Strat style rear-loaded guitar. It's interesting how that worked, right? So we believe that Paul, well, pretty much based off of pictures, painted this guitar, built this guitar, and built the 5150. But the 84 and the 5150 were painted by someone else. Now, I still want to believe that George Felice painted them. He says that he did. He told me that he did. You saw the show. There's some other information out there that it definitely wasn't Zeke Clark. Zeke didn't come until 85. These had already been built. 84 tour was over. So that's out the window. Zeke didn't paint those. Zeke might have painted a lot of other ones, but he didn't paint the 84 and the 5150. There's some other folks that think that there's a couple other names out there that might have painted it. You know, we can maybe talk about that, but it really doesn't matter exactly who painted it. We're going to talk about what it was, and as we know, it was one of these necks that was cut down and one of these exact bodies, right, by Paul. Built by ESP Sports, but assembled and kind of cut and put together and basically put on standby for Ed by Paul. And then Paul leaves in January of 83. All right. Let's see what we got for comments in here. Let's see. Johnny, hi, Holly. I'm driving to a friend's house show right now in brewery in Santa Cruz. Nice, enjoy. Art Tabor, how you doing, buddy? Jesse Sage, how you doing? Thanks for jumping in. Okay, so one more time, here's where we see it. All right, this was freshly painted. All right, and Ed was obviously playing it. It's got the strap and everything. It's wired up, but it didn't hit the stage, right? So I have the picture somewhere, but I haven't pulled it up yet. It took me forever to pull pictures together today. I was trying to like run around and do a million things. So instead of actually pulling the picture up, I got a bunch of others to show that I'll put on screen. But here is a Young Guitar magazine, and there's a bunch of these, and I have a couple of others. But this one was just handy, and it's got the picture I want to show. This is right around when the Kramer 5150 was fresh, right? This is probably early 83. Look at the headstock, right? No star. It's got the prototype vintage nut, string retainer, which is sold by Period Correct Guitar Parts, the string tree, also the Gatto tuners, and a whale tail FRT5 bridge. Look at that. Pretty cool. MXR knob. And again, we think the pickup was a Duncan JB or JBL or whatever. We're not, it's still speculation. What's interesting is the black stripe that goes down behind the bridge. This picture is one of the best that shows how just like, as Paul used to say, willy-nilly it was done. So this, you can see, this guitar was pretty pristine back then. No clear coat, right? Duct tape on it for the picks. And, there's some drippage here on the, down here where the, cigarette burn and everything like that. And then a little bit of black paint drip, which is kind of cool. But when the 5150 stickers go over that, it's hard to see where that black stripe right here, right, where that cuts off. And again, from what my information that I've had says, is basically what they would do when they painted these things is obviously they used masking tape and everything, right? Painted it all white, put the tape on, sprayed it red, pulled the tape off, you got all the white stripes. Now for the black stripes, the reason they have overspray all over them, particularly on the sides and everything, is because they took manila envelopes or pieces of cardboard and they just laid them both on and then just went shh. So basically what you have is you have a manila envelope laying like this, right? Two of them next to each other, right? Just with a stripe. And then they're extended like that. So when they spray on the side, on the side, it just oversprays. So that's exactly why on the top it's not a real tight, sharp, line all the time. And the 84 is great for that because there's overspray here, there's here, it's kind of here, all over the place. And that's because they just use these manila envelopes and pieces of cardboard. They just did the black stripes super, super, super quick. And it makes perfect sense. So when you're replicating these guitars, it's so hard to do it without making them look labored. You know what I mean? Because when you're trying to recreate somebody's mistake, it's not easy, right? So guys like Matt Anthony and Justin Konanovich and Jerry and gosh, the list goes on and on and on. Myself, I repainted the back of my Kramer Rad Frankie about a year ago, and I've done a bunch of my guitars, so I know what I'm doing. But I'm not, like I said, I just don't have the patience anymore. I've said that a million times, but it's tough to recreate mistakes and make them not look labored, right? So a lot of times you only get one shot, especially at the black stripes. And if you mess that up, you got to strip it down and do it all over again. So a lot of guys use airbrushes and things like that, and they can adjust the fog, the overspray. And that's what Matt did on mine. And you'll see that in a little bit. But it's tough. So that's how they did it. They were really meticulous on the white stripes for the most part, even though you can see areas where they just cut it off and it just like ends, and 5150 has it, 84 has it too. I keep pointing at the wrong one. I got to stop looking at the camera and just look back around. But the black stripes were basically just lay these envelopes on it, just go shh, and there was no care in the world. I mean, it's funny if you look at the 84. This one, I believe, was painted at the same time as the 5150, right? Matt did this one too. Look at the sides. Look at the overspray. This is exactly proof of how they did that. And even on the top, you can see right here. See the overspray? Down here, overspray, because the envelopes and then they had curves to them, so they weren't flat like a piece of tape. So areas that they had an arc to them, the paint would slide underneath. Look at the back. I mean, and this is exactly what it looked like. Look how quick they did the back. They didn't even care. It was so funny. Ed wanted these things cranked out. Z 1984, right? So, or some people say it's 2. Hard to say. I think it might be 2. But so that's how they were getting painted. So Paul's gone. George is there. We'll just go with George for the sake of conversation tonight, okay? Let's say George painted these. Not this one. Paul painted them. Let's say the 84 and the 5150. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that George painted them. This is what they did. This is how they did it. Edvis says, I wonder why they didn't use painter's tape and cover the rest with paper to get crisp lines, because they didn't care, and Ed didn't care. Ed did not want factory-looking guitars. He wanted ones that he got off on just quick paint jobs. One of the stories that Paul said, on the Kramer Neptune guitar, I've said it a million times, I'll just do a quick thing. Ed came in the morning, I want a guitar done today. We're doing a photo shoot. And there's pictures of Ed spraying the guitar white and all that and building it and everything. We believe that those were just photo shoots, pics for the photo shoot. We don't believe that Ed really did that. So they'd basically come in and say, I want this guitar painted, built, and given to me at the end of the day. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and he wants it by 4 or 5 o'clock. Paint doesn't even have a chance to dry by then, right? Let alone crisp lines and all this. So that's why they just looked so, cool, I guess you could say, if you're us, but just so hard to recreate because they're not crisp lines, but that's exactly how he wanted them. Kyle Broughton, what's up, buddy? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you, Kyle. So that's how we see the 5150. Now, another early picture of the 5150, it's right here. All right. Now, here's Ed in the 1984 tour. All right. No space tape. Now, the 1984 guitar and the 5150 guitar had the red space tape applied. Steve Nowicki just popped on and said he's checking it out. Our good friend Steve Nowicki, who works for Howard Stern, just popped on. He said he got on YouTube and he's watching the show. Good to see you, buddy. Hey, we got to come out and we got to get together, man. We got to hang out. I got some cool stuff to show you, and Jess and I want to come out and see you in Brooklyn too. Let's chat after the show. There was no space tape the first quarter. We think, I say the first quarter of the tour. I believe it was like the first 10 or 11 shows-ish. Steve says, yeah, we got to hang soon. There was no space tape. So at some point during or after the first quarter of the tour is when the space tape got put on. There's pictures of the 84 and the 5150 like this one. And it's really cool because you can see the flaws in the black lines, right? So again, guitar's got the original MXR knob, original pickup, which now is owned by Jim DeCola. Because when he was building the PV Wolfgangs, and they put a PV Wolfgang pickup in the 5150, which we believe is still in there as it is today, Ed gifted him that pickup. And there's some really good recreations out there. Sean from Pariah's made some awesome ones. I actually have a couple in mine, my guitars, and one's in the 5150. There's some really good stuff out there. All the vintage stuff, though, on that guitar, Whale Tail FRT5, made by Hanson Metalworks, all the cool stuff. So this is what we saw in the beginning. I'm going to kind of bounce around a little bit with the pictures. So Ed plays it in the 1984 tour, and it's his main guitar. And he's using the 84 guitar for certain songs. Ain't Talking About Love, I think, was one. And as we know, the 1984 guitar also had a chrome whale tail on it and had a different volume knob on it. This is a Steinberger knob I have on there that Ed had in 88, and a different neck. We all know that original neck with the 2 stars, the backwards black stripe was put on the Hard Rock 85 guitar that Ed and Val donated back in 85 to the Hard Rock Cafe. And then Zeke Clark did an interview, I believe it was Steve Rosen, and he talks about when he came in and tried out for Eddie's, for a guitar tech job, built this guitar. He put this Floyd on, he put that neck on and all the hardware, and this is what we had for the 5150 tour in 86, which was the good enough guitar with an A bass string for the low thump and all that. And kind of cool stuff. The original whale tail bridge on that guitar, I don't know where it ended up. But the funny thing is the 5150 stayed exactly the same, just continued to get weathered, abused, and used. And we believe that at some point before the 86 tour, 2 of the saddles on that whale tail were replaced with updated saddles. And let's see if I can find that picture. I have it somewhere here. Actually, we'll get to it in a little while. I'll pull it up in a little bit. I have it, but I want to show a couple other things first. So we had the guitar played all through the 84 tour. It's continuing to get weathered. It's continuing to get cooler looking, right? And then the tour's over. Roth leaves. We're in 1985. Ed's playing the guitar. He's got the 84. Zeke comes in, rebuilds it. And now we're getting ready for the 5150 tour. And we're getting ready to show you the new 5150 that I have. You can kind of see it right back here. But so now we're at this stage, all right? Ish. 1984 tour's over. The neck has all this grime on it, right? We're going to go through all the parts and everything on it too. Unfinished neck. Actually, I believe the neck was finished, and Ed took a razor blade and scratched off certain parts of the finish. That's why it kind of wore the way that it did. All the black stuff on the front of the pickup and under the Floyd. Everybody asks me all the time, what was that? Well, Matt, my friend Matt Anthony, and I and a bunch of other folks, we believe that the most logical thing is Ed spilled an ashtray on the guitar or something, and he was sweating on it. It was wet or whatever. It has to be something like that, like ashes. That's it. If you take cigarette ashes and you mash them on a paint surface like that, you will get something that looks like that. Knowing Ed, he just took the guitar and shook it, didn't even wipe it off. It's too much work to go under the strings with a rag, so we'll just leave it. That's what I personally believe it was. All right. So, well, back to the 84 tour just for a second. Now we get the space tape that gets put on, quickly, by the way. That's why the 0 is, kind of at an arc. And the stars get put on. We get the 5150s put on the 5150 guitar, a star under the horn, the top horn, and then 1 star on the headstock. And the 1984 guitar gets the 1984 space tape put on, 2 stars under the horn, and 2 stars on the headstock. And like we said, eventually that neck gets removed, and this is what we end up with. But the 1984 guitar still has the 2 stars right here on the top of the horn, under the top of the horn. So Ed was funny. The duct tape was always getting ripped off. It was getting different stuff was getting put on. That's why this guitar weathered the way that it did. Okay. So what kind of wood was the 5150? Here we go. We're going to have some fun with this one. Well, obviously the neck was a 1-piece maple neck, originally with a finish, right? And we said that Ed wore the finish off with a razor blade. You can kind of see little spots here. Cigarettes in the up by the tuners. That's what made the black and everything, and the Kramer logo. Interesting information. All these years, I always thought, and it still might be the case, that these were all water slide decals. Well, when I interviewed George Felice on my channel last month, he said he believed that they were stick-on logos. And it's interesting because if you think about it, all of the like abuse that this guitar went through, it ended up with a Music Man logo on it. When Music Man repaired it, put their logo, and then they ripped that off when Ed left Music Man, went to Peavey, and there was a piece of black electrical tape. They drilled a hole through the R for the 7th tuner. A water slide decal will not take that kind of abuse. It just won't. A friend of mine, Andrew Eagle, on the 5150 page on Facebook, we kind of chat back and forth. He still thinks it might be water slide, and I don't disagree with him. I think it might be, but I do think I think it's worth considering what George said, that they were stick-on decals, because a stick-on decal, in my opinion, would take that kind of abuse better than a water slide would. I've done stuff with water slide decals that have been on my guitars for years, and they just, they just rip right off. So, and we all know Edna had no finish on this guitar. So maybe a stick-on would have that much more strength to it. So this is actually, and you'll see in a minute, is one of the new stick-on logos offered, aged logos offered by Period Correct, our good friend Mike McGuire. And I love it. I love the look of it. It's went on super easy. Water slides can be a pain in the butt. You got to have at least a couple of them. Otherwise, you're going to, chances are you're going to kill one on the first attempt. But definitely something to look at. They're great. He offers those now, the stick-on ones, and they look just exactly like the water slides, and they're stronger and tougher. So just something to consider. I think it's very possible it was a stick-on. I'm not going to say it definitely was. I think it might have been because of the abuse with drilling the holes for the 7th tuner. I don't think a water slide could take that kind of abuse. I just don't. But here you see the vintage prototype nut with the humpback saddles on it. Those were the nuts that the Floyd nuts that came with the original FRT 1s, 2s, 3s, and right up to the the whale tails. And then when Schaller took over and we're all set, the German Schaller Floyds and the Hansen Metalworks one, we're done. That's when you started to see the the non-humpback saddles, and I think the prototype nuts have a 4508 on the back of them. And you're going to see that mine in a few minutes has the same stuff. The string retainer is upside down, but it's round all the way around, flat on the ends, and the string tree is an incredibly hard to find string tree that it has a lot more substance to it. I'll show it to you in a few minutes. And they make those also at Period Correct, and a few other folks are making them, but they're very hard to find. I've heard that they're Fenders, vintage Fender string trees, but I've also heard some other stuff, so I'm not really sure. Ed had the coolest stuff on his guitar. Gatto tuners, and it was an incredibly thin headstock, and we'll get back into that in a little bit, okay? So that's what we had. So we're going to continue to go. So that's 5150 style, right? 5150 era. And I'm going to pull up another picture here for a second. I'm going to show you guys a few things before we start to jump into the new replica here. And we'll look at some questions here in a second. Let's see. So here we go. So this picture right here. This is a great picture of the original 5150. Black and white. But look at that space tape. Okay, we think this is like 86 era. I'm pretty sure it's 86 era. Now, Whale Tail Floyd Look at the B and high E saddles. By this time, they've been replaced. See the difference with the EADG saddles? They're shorter, and the little arc where the string goes through is a little bit longer, so to speak. Or actually, short. That's shorter too. And then you can see the two saddles on the end, on the B and the high E, have been replaced, probably because of the abuse that was taken. So that's a Whale Tail Floyd. That is the same bridge that is on that guitar today, although a few more saddles have been replaced. Look at the big, this is something that a lot of people miss when they build this replica. And I noticed this years ago with Chris Hubbard. And Matt, when he did mine, put that on there. Look at the big dent and the black stripe above the 5 to the left of the bottom left of the Floyd, right? Isn't that cool? A lot of people miss that in their replicas. And the way that I've recreated that, and Matt did it for me in this new one, is I take a eye bolt, right, with a screw on the end, like you screw on the bottom for the strap hooks. I take the eye bolt, I take the rounded end, I put it down, I take a hammer, and I go, and I hit the sharp end of the threaded area carefully, not too hard, so you don't chip the paint, and that will leave a nice little dent like that. So that's a little trick for you folks that want to recreate that, because a lot of people miss that. All right. Let's just jump back here for a second. Look at what we got. Jim DeCola, great guy, just had a baby and went to the skateboard place in Nashville. Nice. I didn't know he had a baby. I chat with Jim once in a while, but good for him. I know he's a big skateboarding guy. Congratulations, Jim. Let's see what else we got. I've transcribed that interview with Zeke for Steve because Adam couldn't understand his accent and he had a cold. Yeah, great interview, though. I love how he talks about building the 84 guitar, and Ed comes out with a hot dog. Oh, you're done, huh? Let me see. Big blotch of mustard falls on the neck, and this is kind of cool stuff, right? Let's see. Fairfield Guitars. What's up, Lewis? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Thanks for jumping in. Gearhead Workshop. Salute, Rob. You too. Crimson. Looks like there's circle dents in the second 5 of that 5150 sticker. Yeah, definitely. You know, it's funny when you look at a black and white picture like this, it shows you so much more. All kinds of stuff was getting dropped on this guitar, not just ashes from cigarettes and ashtrays, but think of all the stuff that got dropped on this guitar over the years. It's a miracle that the 5150 space tape didn't get peeled off. It really is. It's it's interesting to me. But this is a great picture that kind of shows you what you have. Look at the nut on the bar, on the whammy bar. Typical. I think it's is it an 11 millimeter or 16 mil? I want to say 11 millimeter nut with a nylon washer underneath it. That's what they had on those. It's just simple stuff. You'll see mine in a few minutes because the one I have on my guitar is an original Hanson Metalworks too. So that's a great picture to show. All right, and let's take a look at one other one here before we jump into a little bit more. Okay, this particular picture is really good. This is another early picture from '84. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. This picture was supposed to show a little bit of the grain, but for some reason it doesn't really show it a lot. So this picture again was one that was from the '84 tour, the first leg. Ed's wearing the leopard colored jacket prior to the space tape. But for some reason, you really can't see the grain in this picture. I don't know if it's just because it's not coming up right or not. I don't know. I'm going to remove that one from the studio and show you one other one. And we're kind of jumping around, guys, but the reason we're doing that is because I want to show you where is it? All right. Okay. So this is a good example of why maybe the Kramer logo was a stick-on. Because as you can see, this is after the break in the headstock. It's got the 7 tuner on it with a hole drilled right through the Kramer logo. And it didn't crinkle or curl the logo. It just went right through, which I don't think a water slide would do. That's why I say it. They got the Ernie Ball Music Man logo on it, which eventually, when Ed left Music Man, was replaced with a piece of electrical tape, then ripped off. And then when it got ripped off, what you have is, pull this one out. What you have is this. Now, this is an updated picture of the real 5150 headstock. So this is more current. This is probably within the last, 15, 20 years. But this is what it looks like today. You can see the cut in the headstock, 7th tuner. You get a real good shot at the vintage prototype nut. Although, look at the saddles, guys. The saddles have been replaced with current ones. They are not humpback saddles. However, the short, rounded, upside down, flat end string retainer is there. Now you get a real good look at the string tree, right? That vintage one. Those are hard to find. And look at the Kramer logo. It's still intact, right? After a Music Man logo has been placed on it, a piece of electrical tape put on it, ripped off, and that's where the white blotch of, paper residue sticker underneath, whatever you want to call it, residue on the black stripe is left from. I had a 7th tuner 5150 a couple of years back, and I ended up getting rid of it in an effort to get this one, this 88 version I have now. But I always had kind of a love-hate relationship with this era. I like it, but we never saw Ed. Well, I take that back. Ed played the 7th tuner version in the opening of Cabo Wabo in April of 1990. But that's before they put a Music Man logo on it. But it's after the break, and they'd also clean the fretboard. But this particular era, where after the post Music Man logo, post black electrical tape, rip everything off with the blotch of white blotch on the black stripe, all that is what the 5150 looks like now. But I don't think we've ever seen Ed play it like that. In the 04 tour, he had a Strat style neck on it, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Again, I'm bouncing all over the place. We're just going to start getting into the history of the guitar once I show you my new one. But I'm trying to bang out a bunch of this other stuff here. So this is a great picture of what it would look like today, okay? Pulling up a couple of other pictures here. I think you guys are going to like. Here's one more of what it looks like today. All right. This is a great picture. It's one of the No Bozos pictures that they call it. Now look at that Kramer logo. Oh, not only did it take stickers and tape and everything else on it and holes drilled through it, it also survived a break through the E and the R, a break, because that headstock broke, right? So the neck took a lot of abuse, but the Kramer logo stayed. So this picture is kind of an older picture. This is probably back in like 2005, 2006, I think. To this day, that guitar is strung up and that same neck is on there. But this is what the heads, look at the abuse this thing went through. You can also see the original tuner holes that had been redoweled during the entire building process when Paul added that, those two, they call them the wings, added the wings to the headstock on the bottom and the top end, and then redoweled the holes and re-drilled new ones. Kind of cool stuff. That's what you got. Crim says, it looks like there's circle dents in the second 5. Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Great to hear. It was from Johnny B's channel, 2017. The whole nut looks new. Yeah. Well, actually, Gearhead, the nut itself is not new, and this is an example of that. The actual nut is the original vintage prototype 4508 nut. It's the clamps, the top clamps that were replaced on it. It doesn't have the original humpbacks on it, but good eye. All right, now I'm going to pull up one more picture for right now. And then we're going to jump into the, all right. This is probably what the headstock looks like today. All right. Here you can see the back of it. You can see the brake. This is a newer picture. This picture comes from the Guitar Aficionado picture from the 2012 magazine where Ed did the photo shoot and showed a bunch of guitars. You can see the original 6 Gatto tuning pegs, non-marked Gattos. And then you can see the 7th tuning peg on the bottom for the high E that was moved down and drilled to the Kramer logo. That is the 7th Gatto. And on the last string, where that would have been on the break, or the high E string, I should say, the original one, they got a Schaller double tab on there, and that is a Schaller, and it's a double tab, which is kind of interesting. Ed always had the coolest stuff go on his guitars, you know. It doesn't get used because the original Gatto, which is on the bottom, they call it the 7th tuner, but it's actually the 6th. That is the original tuner that was on there. And it's interesting how, they didn't keep that up where it was. They actually moved that one and put the double tab on there and didn't use that one. It's kind of interesting stuff. But that's what it looks like today. You can also see kind of how the tuners are kind of crooked, they're not where they're supposed to be. Kind of neat. That's a great picture. So we've gone from 1984 or 1983 US Festival through the 1984 tour, Space Tapes put on, 1986. It's got a whole bunch more relic on it because it had no finish on it, and cigarette burns and ashes and all this crazy stuff. We go to the 1988 tour, which is basically the tour that I wanted to use to recreate my version. And I have a picture here that I'm going to show you of that, which is it's a fantastic picture of what mine is. I don't know if I'm going to pull this up, if it's going to work or not. Oh, come on. Let's see. Come on, where are you? Oh, I can't find it. Oh, I thought I had it. Lots of info. 11611 SS. How you doing? Thanks for jumping in. Yeah, it's a whole lot of info. But for some reason I can't find that picture. But that's okay. What I'd like to do is show the new guitar. So my friend Matt Anthony built this guitar for me. It's a lock body and a lock neck, and they did an amazing job on it. The headstock was built exactly like Ed's was. It was cut down and redoweled, and the wings glued on it. Donnie Ward, I believe, did most of that for lock. And my good friend Matt Anthony was hanging out at Dojo 5150 a year and a half ago or so. And he said, I want to redo your 5150. I says, nah, you don't have to do that, man. It's fine. It's fine. No, I want to redo it. I want to make the ultimate 5150. He says, you of all people should be the one to have the ultimate 5150. And I'm like, okay. I had 2 of them at the time. I had the 7th tuner one, which we were just showing you. And I had an 88 version. So he said, let me take that. So we took that. I had all the right hardware on. I had the whale tail, everything on it, the FRT5, everything. A year and a half later, I get this guitar in the mail, and I knew it was coming. He told me it was coming. And not only do I get the guitar, but I get this case. Right? It's got my name on it with the logo. This isn't a sticker. This is all like painted on or stenciled on. And I'm like, wow, that is just incredible. So that was like really, really super cool. All these really cool notes and letters in it, and all these cool, pieces of paper with pictures. And if you get on my Facebook page or my Instagram page, you'll see some video I did of that. Wasn't really an unboxing, but it was kind of the, I'd already opened it. I couldn't stand it, right? So I did a video shortly thereafter. And where is it? This is what shows up. Now, guys, a lot of you guys have been waiting to see this guitar for a long time, as was I. Real quick, Vodecki says, thoughts on the Tone X Brown sound. Jim Gaustad is a good friend of mine. I think it's amazing. I don't have it yet, but I've watched his videos, and Jim and I have talked. It is the best of the best of the best of the best. I don't think I've ever heard a sound any closer to what it really was. And I think Jim is an amazing player. He did an awesome job on that. A huge fan. I definitely want to jump on that. So I've probably had, gosh, I don't know. I did, when I first got into doing this back in 96, building these guitars, I painted the first probably 3-4 of my 5150s, and they were okay, but we didn't have the pictures that we had. We didn't have, internet was just coming out. We didn't have the resources that are here today. And I can honestly say this is the most incredible replica that I've ever seen. And I finally just got it all set up today the way I want it. And all you guys, drum roll please, that have been waiting to see this thing, here it is. Here's the headstock. All right, we'll go over the parts in a minute. I put the 5150 picks on it. Check it out. What do you guys think? Look at the overspray. He nailed it. The neck is seated. It's exactly like Ed's. It sits so low in the pocket, right? Every little thing is. I'll have to show the whole thing here. Now remember, it's got the barrel jack. This is the 1988 version. Okay, so it doesn't have as much Swiss cheese here in the holes and stuff. Look at the grain, right? Look at how we did the wear here. It's just incredible. Pretty amazing. B4129 serial plate. Serial number plate, Michael McGuire, yellow ground wire, big steel block. It's an FRT5. Gatto tuners. Now, sometime around 90, there was a chip right here of white paint. It wasn't there in 88, and this is what I was going for, all right? So that's why it doesn't have that. It's got the dirt by the pickup, ashtray, I'm going to say, spilt on it. It's got it down here by the Floyd, right? There's the 11 millimeter nut, the nylon washer. This is a real Hanson Metalworks whale tail Floyd. When Floyd came out, they made the FRT 1s, the 2s, the 3s, and then the FRT 4s. This is an original FRT 4 Fernandez version with the embossed logo, right? And it's got the vertical fine tuners. They weren't bent back yet. Ed had one of these on his Frankenstrat, but he didn't like it because his palm kept hitting the fine tuners. So that's why they bent it back. That's where the whale tail comes from. But this is an original Floyd Rose FRT4 long stem bar, big steel block. This was on the Vetus guitar, and I'm actually going to be putting this on my Vetus guitar pretty soon. But this is an original one, All right, FRT4. And then the FRT5 came. So Hanson Metalworks had the contract, the temporary contract, you could say. Now, a lot of these guys, Michael McGuire and Darren and all these other guys on the Floyd Rose pages, these guys have mountains of knowledge on the Floyds, and I continue to learn from them. So they're going to have more details than I ever will. Jimmy Carr, am I going to see you tomorrow? You coming to the party? I think Jimmy and I are going to be hanging out tomorrow for a little while. They made approximately, used to be, they said 200 of these, and then I heard it was like 600 to 800 of them. And they were making these Floyds, FRT5 versions, while Schaller Germany was tooling up, right? And then when they took over, there were some changes that came. And we've talked about this before. I'll go into a little bit of detail. But we believe there was anywhere between 2 to 800. I think it was a little bit closer to 6 of these Floyds that were made. And they're really, really hard to find. And they're awesome. They, have the old vintage nut. The bars are a little bit longer, a little bit straighter. You can tell down here, it's an oval where the saddle screws go into. These saddles are actually shorter, like I showed you earlier. The Floyd Rose is actually off center. It's closer to the side. It's not centered, right? The screws, the post screws, you can tell they're here, right here. They have they're real fat. They have a big fat top hat on them, right? They're bigger. Big steel block, which is great for resonance and tone. Big long stem bar that sticks down, and you can tell there's no springs underneath the saddle screws, which I think are tone robbers anyways. I remove them for all my Floyds. But and the actual base was actually a little bit thinner. But I'm telling you, these things have the best tone I've ever heard. It's incredible. Quick question. Owen Nugent says, how you doing? Go back and watch the beginning of the show, Owen. We talked about the Hot for Teacher. That was made by Paul Unkert, Kramer, and he also painted it. All right. Yeah, Robbie, you're right. Steel block. How you doing, Robbie? Robbie Stinkles here. How you doing, my friend? Robbie, you gotta go like this. Look at this freaking thing. 1988 version of this thing. I've never seen anything like it. One of these days, I'm gonna come visit you, Robbie, and I'm gonna want to play some guitar with you, dude. Want to see some of your stuff. But really cool guitar. I personally believe that I'm not going to spend a lot of time arguing about it, only because some good friends of mine that have played this guitar, the whole basswood, swamp ash, poplar. Poplar was the main wood they were using for all of Ed's guitars. Hot for Teacher was poplar. The 84 probably might have been poplar. I'm not sure. I personally believe that this 5150 was made of basswood. I personally believe that because that's where Ed ended up going with Music Man and ultimately PV and everything, at least for the the main piece of the wood and then the maple cap on it. Some folks say it's swamp ash. I don't know. George Felice seems to believe it was. He told me on the show that it was swamp ash. So I don't. It's tough because a lot. I want to be very respectful when I say this. These guys were there. I wasn't. But I will tell you that, when you ask me what I was doing back in 1983, I'll tell you I was watching the A-Team. But if you also ask me what details about certain things, I can't remember because it was 1983. I was 10 years old. So it's, I don't know. I believe what these guys said. They're the masters. I'm just a researcher, a hobbyist, a fan. But I personally believe this was basswood, but I'm not. I could be wrong. It could be poplar, it could be swamp ash. But I've always kind of subscribed to the basswood piece, especially over the last few years. But again, one of these days I very well could be proven wrong. What I will tell you is I've been told that it was a very light guitar. This was a very light guitar, and this one certainly is too. All right. This one is basswood, and Matt, who built it, showed me that a lot of the detail in the back where the wood's worn away is very almost exact looking to what Ed's was as far as the grain pattern, right? You can tell in this guitar no detail is missed. Under the spring clock, and you see the ghost route. See the ghost route, the route in the pocket in there, up by the top, and then going down by the side. That was something that the Pacers had. Really, really, really cool. Oh, and Robbie, since you're here, I showed this guitar earlier. 1981 Kramer Pacer, and Robbie told me that this body is exactly what they used for the 5150. Obviously, this got a Rockinger. It's got the lawsuit, Strat headstock and everything, but this is a great guitar. And Robbie told me that this is exactly what they were using back then for those guitars, for the 5150. This one is I think it's a B serial number. Yep. Really cool guitar. But back to this. This is the most incredible 5150 replica I've ever seen, and I'm happy to own it. I got it set up today. I'm going to do a video on it with me playing it very, very soon. Look how thin the headstock was. Isn't that crazy? Super, super, super thin. Ed liked them like that. Let's see what we got for questions. Robbie Stingle, steel block. Aren't they the best? Now, Robbie also told me that, well, not told me, I already knew, but Robbie also uses Dive Bomb. Kyle from Dive Bomb Incorporated, also makes the steel blocks, and he's been doing guitar. Kyle Finch was doing guitars for years, bodies and necks and stuff. I've had a lot of stuff from Kyle. If you're watching, Kyle, hope you're doing well. He's got some good stuff. Louis says, I heard Rob's going to bid on the real Hot for Teacher. Yeah, I'm going to put my entire guitar collection up to it. And I don't even think that would come close. They must have changed the position of the eye bolt on the horn since the 82 version. Multi-Velador, how you doing? Yeah, they did. There's pictures of Ed with this guitar with the eye bolts, right? And you can see the hole right here. Ed had, I have all these pictures, but I don't have them all handy. Had it originally here. And then he ended up going into the back of the horn. Now, I never personally, obviously doing my replicas, I never personally like that because when I play, for me, it makes the guitar tilt this way, so it's harder for me to get down there. I personally like to have it more so I can see it, but that's just my preference. But Ed liked them back there on the back of the horn. Really interesting stuff. Let's see. George said 5150 Swamp Ash and Hot for Teacher, Basswood. Incubus says, yeah, again, I hear you, but I have very close sources that have guaranteed me this is basswood. I can't verify that. I can only go off of what I've been told, but that's what I believe. But again, I could be wrong. Swamp Ash is light, Northern Ash is heavier. Yes, it is, Gerald. How you doing? Thanks for jumping in. All the parts being the same besides the body. Has anyone ever done a back-to-back test of Basswood versus Swamp Ash versus Poplar body? Just curious. There was a, according to the DiMarzio interview that was out a couple of years ago, this guitar was analyzed and it was looked at. And I believe they said that it was basswood. Again, this can be, argued till the cows come home. But I do want to say that I'm going to say it was basswood, but it certainly, it could be ash. It could be poplar. One of these days, I hope we find out for sure. But I personally believe I'm going to stick with basswood. That's just my thing. Humpback string clamps work better too. You're right. They do, Robbie. And that's what I got on here. Again, this is the 88 version. See the humpback clamps? So vintage prototype 4508 nut. It's got the right string tree on it, right string retainer. Real thick ones. Those are hard to find. But they make them from period correct. Dive Bomb might make them too, right? Gatto tuners. Another little thing you didn't know, the holes in the back for the nut on the 5150, they were drilled wider for the countersink. I never knew that until Matt found that out for me. They were drilled wider. So here it is. This is a guitar that I've been waiting for a long time. What else can we talk about on this thing? We talked about the wood. We talked about the bridge. We talked about all the parts. We believe this was a Seymour Duncan JB or some kind of a custom is what we think. MXR knob, right? Piece of black gaffer's tape Ed put to show him where the barrel jack was. This was ripped off years later, right? And let me show you a picture here real quick. So here's an interesting picture of the 5150. So we believe this picture was taken in 2004, all right? It's got the PV Wolfgang pickup on it. They got a piece of masking tape over the saddles, which is interesting because I don't know why that would be because, actually I know, because the blocks in these things are called T-blocks. They don't just fall out. However, Ed had a few replaced, so that's probably why. So the blocks didn't fall out. They had them replaced with newer blocks, and they will fall out if you turn it upside down. So here's a picture of when they were actually putting the Charvel neck on this guitar, and I have a picture that I was trying to see if I could pull up, but you can tell a lot of people used to think this was a 6-bolt body for the neck plate. It wasn't. Some folks say, well, it was 4, but then underneath the neck plate there was 2 more. You can tell this is a 4-bolt neck just by looking at this, right? And you can see the tuners up there on the top. So this is PV Wolfgang pickup. This is the 5150 in 2004 when it was being put together, re-put together for the tour. Oh my gosh, my daughter's in here. Hi, Molly. Where did you come from? Oh my gosh, my daughter Molly's in here. Thanks for jumping in. By the way, Molly passed her medical exam today for her certified medical assistant. Congratulations, buddy. She's so pumped. My wife and I got to hang out with her a little bit tonight. By the way, my wife sent me a text a little while ago. So I gotta make sure. Maybe she's gonna make me another drink. Your dinner is on the counter, ready for you. You're really talking about the year I was born. Oh, my wife. So this is the 1988 5150, right? And my wife was born in 1988. So there's another reason why I love this version so much. Yeah, babe, I do need a drink. She says, I'm watching and I love you. Thank you. And my amazing daughter is also watching. So I got my wife and my daughter watching the show. That's great. So this guitar has another thing on it that is kind of interesting to talk about. See the holes it's got in the back, right? Who here knows what those holes were for? Anybody? Bueller, Bueller, Bueller. Say in the chat, what do you think those holes were for? Kip just says shelf. What kind of shelf? Robbie says table. Alan's here. What's up, Alan? Alan's great. Alan keeps me in check. Incredible guitar player. The tray table, yes. So I don't know if our amazing friend Jerry is still watching, but I was also given a gift. A custom gift, already pre-drilled. This is the tray table that Ed had so he could play it on the 1984 tour. He had a patent on this thing. He had a plexiglass one too, but he started out with a wooden one. And Jerry built this for me because he knew I was getting the ultimate 5150 replica. And what happens is, what Ed did, he had this on the back of the guitar, right? Like this, right? And then he would basically flip up the guitar. Jeez, out of tune, no I'm kidding. Flip up the guitar. This would come down, right? And it would hold the guitar up. Actually, it was actually this way. It would hold the guitar up, and then Ed would actually was able to play the guitar like a piano, right? He would do that thing that he did in the 84 tour. Really, really cool. So now, you know, so a lot of folks are putting these holes in their 5150 replicas, the relics, to show that. But this was a nice little treat. I never expected this. It does work. I just haven't attached it yet. But I've never had one of these, and my good friend Jerry built this. This is really cool. Gearhead Workshops, the Plexi was the coolest. Yeah, Ed went with the Plexi because I think it was a little bit less clumsy. It wasn't quite so bulky, you know what I mean? A friend of mine actually has the Plexi version of it that he built, and really, really neat. But this is kind of cool. I don't know if I'm ever going to put it on the guitar, but I'm definitely going to keep it as a, you know, as a novelty, so to speak. Really, really cool stuff, though. Crimson says, I want to get the clear tray table for my guitar. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Oh, here we go. We're still talking about the wood. I've created monsters. But anyways, here's the new 5150. My friend Matt, dude, you knocked it out of the park. I mean, this thing is just absolutely incredible. The relic on the fretboard, just the, you know, gosh, everything. The white gaffer's tape on the pickup, which Ed had, so the high E string didn't get stuck down there. The cigarette ashes, original Hanson Metalworks Floyd, whale tail MXR knob. Just, I mean, the wear that on the forearm piece, the grain, just, gosh, it just blows me away. Absolutely incredible. Barrel jack, overspray. Really, really cool. One of the pictures I was trying to pull up that I can't seem to get, for some reason it's not cooperating with me. And I don't know why. It's not pulling them up at all. I had them all preloaded, but they're not working. Anyways, the updated version of this guitar, the picture that I put up a couple of minutes ago, if you were to flip this guitar over, one of the things that Ed was messing around with, if you see the Guitar Aficionado pictures, you'll see there's a hole drilled in the cavity plate. And it's the same size hole as a volume or a tone knob. And it's got a piece of black electrical tape on the inside, so you can't see, you can see the drill route, but you can't see all the way through because it's got the black electrical tape on it from on the other side. We believe that was Ed experimenting for a very short period of time, possibly on the 04 tour. We don't know. that Ed had a tone knob in there and was possibly using that as some type of a treble bleed or something like that. But it was definitely some type of a volume or tone knob. And I don't know whatever else it would be, because this is just a one pickup, one volume knob guitar. So it would have to have been some type of a tone knob or something. Like I said, he was using like a treble bleed or something, and then ended up taking off and putting a piece of black tape, over it. But there's pictures of that. You can clearly see it. There's a hole in that cavity cover. So we had some kind of a knob on there. So that's just kind of a piece of information that a lot of folks didn't know about. Gerald says, I like the wood one. Even if I had it clear, I'd still want the wood one. Well, yeah, I know, preference, right? It's so much fun to build these things. And, gosh, I've been doing this for so many years, and I'm, playing them and building them. And, this guitar is my absolute favorite guitar ever in the world. And this is the guitar that made me want to start playing guitar. The Frankenstrat, no doubt, most historical guitar in the world, one of them anyways, at least, I'll give that hands down. When people think of Ed, they think of the Frankie, not necessarily this one. I think of this one when I think of Ed, just because this is the guitar that got me into playing. I saw this guitar and I was like, whoa, Live Without a Net video. I'd already known who Van Halen was, and I loved their music, but I really didn't pay too much attention to the guitars back in the 80s. And then I saw the video, and I was like, this is the cool. All I could think of was like a candy cane. I'm like, that's the coolest guitar. And this is what made me want to get into playing. So the fact that I have, in my mind, one of the best replicas in the world of this guitar is a total honor. It really, really is. And I'm happy to have it. And I want to give shout out to Matt Anthony for building it. I want to give a shout out to Lock Guitars for the body and the neck. I want to give a shout out to Matt Anthony for painting it and relicing it. I want to give a shout out to Mike McGuire from Period Correct Guitar Parts for basically all the parts on this thing. Other than the Floyd, I want to give a shout out to Jerry Leica for this original Hanson Metalworks whale tail and the tray table. I want to give a shout out to my good friend Scott Smith, who I've known for many, many years, who got me into this, who also sends this nasty cordless unit, which I'd been looking for forever, to go with it. This is the banjo strap. Shout out to my good friend Lewis for supplying me with this thing, because it is super, super cool. The right clips and everything. Fairfield Guitars. I had a whole bunch of people chipping in on this project. Shout out to Sean Levine from Pariah for the pickup. Gosh, what else? Shout out to me for setting it up. I do all my own tweaks and stuff, but there's a lot of folks that had a lot to do with this guitar. I had a couple sets of strings that were really, really cool. I kept one, and I won't open it, but one of them I used, and you guys are going to get a kick out of this. The original 5150 strings. I think Ernie Ball made these. Yep. This is an original set. I had two. This isn't even open. I used one on this guitar, right? And I got a pack of Marlboro Reds for if I got to do some more cigarettes, right? So this is it, guys. This is a guitar that I've wanted for a long time. So 1988 version, OU812, 1988 pre-1990 version. I also call it the Tokyo Dome 1989 Japan concert version. There's a poster which I have on the wall. I had blown up, but it's in a magazine, of a guitar magazine, 1990. I think it's February 1990, of the Frankenstrat, the Steinberger GL2T, and the 5150. and it was just before the headstock broke, and it's in all its dirty glory, just like this, with the fretboard and everything. That's kind of what I was going for on this, and Matt just knocked it out of the park. There's all kinds of great painters out there. Most of them are good friends of mine, and you've all done work for me, and I'm going to continue to do shows on those guitars. But this particular guitar is a creation by Matt Anthony, and I really appreciate it, buddy. It was a long time coming, but he took as much time as he needed to make, in his opinion, the ultimate 5150, and I'm just honored to have it. And I will play it, and I will use it. It's my favorite guitar, and I appreciate it. Let's see what we got for questions. Treble bleed is resistor and capacitor added to the volume pot so that when you turn it down, the volume get retain high end. Yes, exactly. Alan says that might have been Jim DeCola's mod for the Wolfgang pickup that's in the guitar now. Good point. I actually never thought of that. That's because it's very well, Alan, that it could have it happened around that time. You know. Robbie says it's wiring the capacitor from one connector to another on the potentiometer, unlike wiring it from the ground from a form of sound. Crimson. Okay. Yep. Jim did a mod that was switchable for one of Ed's PV guitars, which imitated the original 5150 pickup, which was a slightly altered Duncan JB. Yes. Yep. Is it the BC? Got mine yesterday. Hugh Robbins says, how you doing, Hugh? No, this particular pickup is the PS86 Pariah. I do have a BC that I got as a gift from my friend Justin. And I have that actually right now. It's in my 918V guitar, which I'll do a show on soon on the 5150 Tour backup Kramers. I'm going to do a show on that. But I have that actually BC in there, and that is incredible. When I don't know if you got yours hooked up yet, Hugh, but once you do, it's awesome. It's right on the money. I think it even sounds better than this one. This PS86 is great, but that BC is, yeah, that's badass. So I think that's pretty much it. We hit pretty much all the history of this guitar. The 5150 went through many, well, not many changes. Well, I guess you could say it went through a few changes. But other than the pickup being switched out in '96, the neck being switched out in 04 to the Charvel neck, which I really didn't like very much. I have, I can't pull the picture up, but I am going to show one picture. I'll have to pull it on my phone. I hate doing this. I thought I graduated from this a long time ago. But because the pictures won't load, I will show you guys this. I took this picture myself in 04 of Ed playing the 5150. I don't know if you guys, hold on, blow it up a little bit. And he's got that big, long, honking bolt hanging off. And I know it's kind of blurry, guys, sorry, but you can tell Ed's got the Charvel Strat head on it. He also has a jack plate where the barrel jack was for the input jack. PV Wolfgang pickup. So this was switched out to a plate. Pickup was switched out. PV Wolfgang pickup. There was multiple original saddles that were switched out to the updated saddles. The bar stayed the same and still is today. Still got the 11 millimeter nut on it. The volume nut was the same. The humpback clamps, like these, were taken off at some point, but the original 4508 prototype nut still remains. The same string tree remains. The same string retainer remains. The Gatto tuners still remain. The seventh, one of them was moved down to the bottom for the high E, and then when the headstock broke, the Schaller double tab was put on there. I have one of those up here. I have a few guitars that have them. The piece of tape was taken off, although you can still see the residue. The eye bolts were swapped out and dipped in red plasti dip or excuse me, a black plasti dip, like electrical tape dip. So they have like a rubber coating on them, so it doesn't make so much noise with the dog clamps. The hole was drilled in the cavity cover for the treble bleed or whatever knob that was in there. The block remains the same. Today, Ed has 3 black springs versus the 2. Same yellow ground wire. Same star here, still here. Obviously, the picks have been removed, the duct tape's off. But other than that, this guitar pretty much has stayed the same. Original bridge and all that, the space tape numbers are still on there. This guitar has really, I'll tell you, it's been consistent to the years. I'm going to show you one other picture here that didn't come up when I tried to bring it up. Here's a picture of what the guitar would look like now on the bottom. Okay. Looks like Swiss cheese. That's the real one. You can see the big, huge hole there when he had the big rod sticking out of it in 04, which was to hold on to his mic. Excuse me, hold on to the. It was to hold on to the cord to hold it out here, so we didn't trip on it because Ed was using a cord. And 9080 had a microphone rod sticking on there, and he switched that out to this big metal rod, which I have on my green 5150 Sustainer guitar, PV, Wolfgang. And I think pretty much that is what we have. A lot of the same information from the last show that I did years ago. But if you go back to my channel and you watch the show that I did, like I said, 6 years ago, I have my 7th tuner updated 5150 version. And that's got some good info in it too, but we pretty much hit a lot of the same stuff. This one is pretty much, like I said, the 88 version of it. All right. Let's see. Making stripe last week. I could imagine if Ed was still alive, he'd get the 5150 neck relic to look like it did before being cleaned up. Yeah, maybe. Or you just play it, right? I firmly believe that if Ed had been still alive and they did the kitchen sink tour with Sammy and Gary and Roth, everybody coming back, Mike, I really believe you would have saw a lot of these guitars come out. I think the Steinberger was coming out, and I would venture to say that I probably think that this one would too. Does the nut hang a little over the edge of the fingerboard of the high E side? That's how it looked from the back. Yes, I'm glad you said that. Hangs over just a little bit. I don't know if you can tell. See the gap right here? Right up here, you can see a piece of wood. This was on the 5150 Facebook page the other day, and that's one of the nice things that this original whale tail vintage prototype nut does. It's a little short of that side, and it hangs over a little bit more on that side. Yeah, you can tell right there. But the string doesn't hang off the edge either. Still works, right? And I have I think Ed had brass, I'm not sure, but I have a shim, a metal shim under there too. Good catch. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to mention that. Yeah, Robbie says the entire nut hangs over. Yeah. Kind of cool stuff. I really tried to go above and beyond on this one. And, you know, there's more stuff that we're still learning about these guitars. I mean, you know, you got guys like George, Paul, Robbie, who's in the chat right now. You know, all these guys that were there, that saw these guitars, that were there when they were being made, that some of them built them. You know, they're the ones that had the honor of actually being there. So we're still learning from these guys. We're still learning from articles, people that come out of the woodwork, all kinds of cool stuff. YouTube videos like the whole Zeke Clark interview that he did on YouTube with Steve Rosen. By the way, I interviewed Steve Rosen a couple of weeks ago on my show. That was great. Steve was awesome. You know, just we're still learning information, and these people are still coming out and they're still saying, you know, verifying things that we thought and debunking things that we thought. So that's just the fun stuff. That's just a good time, you know. Crimson says, didn't Ed lose the 6-string Steinberger? What do you mean lose? Oh, you're talking about the GL2T? No, he still has it. Yeah, you're right, Hugh. The Facebook page is still great. It's just fun to still keep, you know, keeping up with this stuff. I mean, and I think it's going to continue to go on for years. You know, the whole Van Halen legacy is going to go on. We're still going to learn more and more about, you know, these guitars and what Ed had and what they, you know, what he used. Parts, all this kind of geeky stuff, you know, it's still a good time. I have a lot of fun doing these shows. I have a lot of fun talking to you guys, you know, showing these guitars. I want to continue to do these shows. This Hot for Teacher, I'll just show this real quick since it's out. This is one that I had done years ago. I have the mod on it. This is Musicraft, I believe. You can tell the string retainer that's on there right now is a vintage one. Look at the nut clamps with the screws. This is what's on there now. This is not what was on there when Ed was playing it in '84. But it's got the rubber speed grip knob. You know, this is a 59 Duncan, I think. I did some of the relic on this myself. Came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this guitar. The relic and everything. I have a big brass block on this. That's not on the real one, but I just had one kicking around. Robbie, I got to put a steel one on, right? Look at the holes. What do you think that was for? Tray table, right? And this is C0176. That's the number that was on the real one. A la Mike McGuire, very correct. The backwards triangle on the headstock. These are Schaller 45-degree tab tuners, which is on the real one. This is a good guitar. It's Hot for Teacher is pretty cool. Oh, and on the Floyd, you'll notice the saddle screws in the front. A couple of them were switched out with Phillips head screws with little brass washers on them. Kind of neat. Neat stuff. But yeah, Hot for Teacher guitar. Another one that Ed played a little bit on the '84 tour and was just recently auctioned off for a lot of money. But a fun guitar. A picture of me and Dweezil when he was here back in April. Here he is in Dojo playing the Rude guitar. Is the new 5150 more red than the 84 behind you? Doesn't look like the D1607 to me. Hughes, great question. So another debate on the 5150 is, gosh, the red. So this particular version is not as orangey as my last one was, okay? It's a little bit closer to the 84, and I believe they were all the same paint. I cannot tell you exactly. Matt says it was Chevy Orange Red, but I think it was a different version than what I had on the last one. My last one was a little bit too orangish, I think, and as orangish. And as the years went on, I learned a little bit more. I really learned a lot when I saw the Frankenstrat. When I saw the Frankie, I was like, whoa, that does not look to me like it did in all the pictures. It looked different. The red looked more pinkish to me. Well, from what I've heard, the 5150 was not quite as light as what folks say. A lot of that could be lighting. Now, I have not seen this guitar in person. I hope one day I can. But what I will tell you is this particular guitar, unlike the 84, had a lot more stage time and road use and was out in the sun a lot more. Ed took this thing everywhere. It played outside stadiums. It was just abused and dropped and thrown, had light It's lights on it all the time. The 84 did not have as much time outside as this one did. So I think that's one of the reasons why it may look a little bit different. But I'll tell you, I still see pictures of this thing in 88, this era, where it looks like this, a little bit darker. It's not quite so orangish like some of the updated pictures. So again, I was going for the 88 era of it, so that's why it's a little bit darker than maybe what folks are used to seeing or having, seeing me have. It's a great question. Does the mini Hot for Teacher guitar play nice? I've been thinking about making one. Crimson says, yeah, mine plays good. Mine was basically a Squire guitar. It was a Squire, and I bought it and I stripped it down, painted it. Took the headstock, which was a Strat headstock, and took my bench grinder to it and made it into the Kramer Classic. So I'm trying to replicate the live without a net version. Finding the correct color here in Germany is really a pain. Yeah. Gosh, I'll tell you, the best I can tell you, Hugh, is just continue to look at the pictures. Get on that Facebook page, the 5150 Facebook page, and just pose those questions. And I'm telling you, I guarantee you we can get you really close. Robbie says, what do you think of the Sotheby's guitar? Oh, I love that guitar, Robbie. The Kramer ad, Frankie. I love it. I have that's been always one of my favorite ones. Paul built and painted for Ed, yeah, it's one of my favorites. I have a replica of it. I noticed on that guitar, somebody took off the original prototype whale tail and put on an updated German Floyd on it. But they did that, whoever did that did it before they gave it to Rudy in 85, because I have a picture of Rudy holding it in 1985 where Ed signed it and said, Rude, let's do another 10 years and whatever. And it had a German Floyd on it then. So at some point after the South American leg of the last leg of the Diver Down tour, Ed took that original prototype Floyd off of it. But on mine, I have a original prototype, non-chromed, non-marked Floyd on there. So I was able to get that on mine. So yeah, yes, change parts. Robbie, how many parts do you think of Ed's guitars were raped over the years, like the Vetus and all these different, somebody took on the Vetus guitar, as you probably know, it had one of these original FRT 4s on there with the, with the vertical fine tuners. And because I got a picture of Vetus holding it, and it's got a different one on there. So I think people raped a lot of the parts off of those guitars over the years. Who knows where they are now, right? Yeah, I know. There's a couple folks on there that don't respond to everybody, but good stuff on there. Good stuff on the pages. All of them for sure, Robbie says. Well, look, guys, I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I'm going to be doing more shows. I hope that you guys enjoyed this show. We took a little bit of a trip down memory lane on the 5150 guitar, and a little bit of the history and the parts, and it always brings up great conversation for for these things. And I really appreciate you guys watching. This guitar is one I've been waiting for a long time, and I'm just tickled pink, so to speak, on how this turned out. And I can't wait to play it more. Like I said, I finally got it set up how I want it this morning. And, one last thing I'm just going to say. Notice the Floyd on this guitar. See how it tilts back, right? A lot of people think, I see on pages, like, oh, the Floyd isn't set right or whatever. My Floyd's not right. So Ed had his Floyd set like this because he wanted it to sit on the base of the wood because it gave him more sustain. He didn't want him to float. So these old whale tails, it's okay if it's tilted back like that. It's fine. As long as your action is set right, and I have a super low action, it doesn't matter, right? So people think that that's not supposed to be that way. It's not a problem. You can have your Floyd tilted back like that. I wouldn't want to go too much more than that, but that's how I have this particular one set up. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. If it plays good, it is good. detuner won't fit. Yeah, detuners will not work on the whale tails because they don't ride well on the steel back here, not like the German Floyds. So what I do is I just take my, before I clamp it, I tune it, but I make sure that my fine tuner is almost buried all the way down. That way, when I want to go drop D, I just back off the fine tuner. And that's what Ed used to do back in the 80s before they came out. But thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Barney is sound asleep down here. And I really love you guys. I appreciate all the watches. If you guys would like to donate to my channel, if you go to my main YouTube page, there's a donate button. It's always great to get more equipment to show you. I would appreciate that. But more than anything, I just appreciate you watching. And please stay tuned on my YouTube channel and my Facebook channel. We're going to be doing more shows. I'd like to have some more folks on here. Robbie, I'd like to have you on my show sometime. I want to have you on. We'll chat about some of the old days in Kramer. I'd love to hear some of your stories. Robbie and I chat back and forth on Messenger a lot. He's got some awesome stuff, just amazing stuff, and a lot of knowledge. So I'll be reaching out to you. Bent Tom, how you doing, Bent Tom? Barney, yeah, Barney's right here. Give us, where's your, I don't know if you're talking to me, but I got a pink cup here. Yeah, my wife never brought me the other drink. She must have fallen asleep. Yeah, good catch. Where is she? It was at 9:09, so we were almost an hour away. She probably gave up on me. I didn't answer in time. But really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. There's going to be more shows. I got a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about, a bunch of Kramers, and yeah, let's have some fun. You guys have a great weekend. Happy Labor Day weekend, and stay tuned. Ask away in the questions on my Messenger or Instagram. Love seeing you guys. Really appreciate the feedback and the attention you guys give. You guys are the reason I do these shows. It's a lot of fun. Have a great weekend, and stay safe, everybody. Let's keep it 5150 time. All right, guys. Have a good night. Happy weekend. Love you all. Thank you so much.